Okay, welcome back. This is Chapter 10. Hey, we made it to the double-digit chapters. Woohoo! Must be getting towards the end somewhere, huh? All right, this one's all about information and decision support systems. So we kind of talked about, the bottom level of the information pyramid being mostly data. And as you kind of go up the pyramid, it becomes more and more information and more suitable for making decisions. Okay, so the objectives, like always. So, define the steps of decision making. Discuss the importance of implementing and monitoring problem solving. Explain the use of MISs to describe their inputs and outputs. Discuss the information. List and discuss important characteristics. There's some good test questions in that. And give the potential for effective management support tools. Identify and describe the major components of a decision support system. And just state the goals and identify the characteristics that distinguish it. Definitely some good test questions there. Okay, as always, I kind of like the gold section. The gold section is really kind of sort of about, why do I want to learn this? And again, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you were the person in the office everyone went to and said, look, we're having some problems. We can't quite figure out, even how to ask the system, but we need to be able to forecast our sales for next year. And, all this computer stuff is bewildering to us. Could you do this for us? And if you say, why, of course, I'll do that for you, you're going to be a very, very valuable member of the team. And probably better paid and last to let go. I mean, this is a critical skill, and a lot of people don't have this skill. A lot of executives hire an executive assistant just to do the automation kind of things. If they're not already an they may be a fantastic person. They're a great people person, a great manager, but computers just ain't their thing, right? You know the kind of people I'm talking about. So they hire, like an executive assistant or some staff member to do this kind of stuff for them. Yeah. Okay, so there's employment potential here. Okay, now that I've done trying to sell you on the idea this is important, let's move on. Okay, on page 449, they start talking about, what is decision making. And they break it up into two chunks. It's kind of weird. I don't really know why they do that. But hey, they talk about several little phases to this thing. So they have three phases to what they call decision making. The first one is intelligence, then design, and then choice. So we'll talk about those three first. So intelligence is, in my world, I kind of come from an engineering and math perspective. From my world, this intelligence is describe the problem. Okay? Because trust me, if you have not accurately described the problem, then your solution's probably not going to work. The example I gave to you guys, I don't know, 2 or 3 lectures ago, I don't remember, it's been so long, is, you're a grocery store owner, and your sales has been plummeting, and you decide that the reason why the sales is plummeting is because the shelving is too tall. And so you put together you design a fantastic setup, and you've picked the choice to how to lower the shelving, and you implement that, and you do everything. You do everything by the book. And it doesn't increase sales at all because no one cared about how high the shelves were. In other words, you did not correctly identify the problem. Okay, so fixing problems that don't exist is a waste of time. All right, let's continue. So, accurately describing the problem, very important. That's this intelligence phase. The next one is designing, which typically is more like picking alternatives. So, in the design phase, you're not just going to come up with one answer most likely. You're probably going to say, well, we could do it this way or we could do it that way. So coming up with alternatives. And then the last one is the choice, where you have to kind of make a decision. Okay, of the 3 alternatives, we're going to pick number 2. Okay, so that's kind of decision making. Now, they make a distinction between decision making and problem solving, and it's really semantics, okay? It's not really a hard and fast thing. Is that after you've made the decision, wouldn't it be kind of cool to actually implement the decision? Right? Kind of a given, I would think. I mean, if I'm going to go to all this trouble of picking out the solution that I want, I'll say, okay, I'm done. No, of course I'm going to implement the solution. This is kind of silly. Anyway, so implementing the thing is doing it. And then the next one is kind of sort of important. And that is, you need to monitor the situation to see that it actually achieved the goals. For example, if I lowered the shelves on the grocery store, and I expect to see my sales go back up, and if they don't, then something is wrong. And so if you skip this step, okay, if you don't do any monitoring, and you go, well, look, I know exactly what the problem is. This is a no-brainer. We'll just do this, this, and this, and everything will be fine. And if you don't ever go look to see if your assumptions were correct, wow, not good at all. Now, I'll tell you, I used to work in an organization that an organization that did this kind of stuff for a living. And one of the rules that we made is when you're monitoring something, if the goal of this thing was to increase sales by 20% or some stated goal, you were never allowed to go back and revise history and say, well, there's no way we're going to make 20%, so why don't we just say 10% is good? All right, we were never allowed to do that. In other words, we could never go back and say, well, that original goal was absolutely, positively unattainable, so we're going to change it. No, we were never allowed to do that. You just had to defend that, the goal was unachievable. Okay, let's continue. The next thing they talk about is these decision types. And this is kind of sort of important. They talk about programmed decisions. Now, this is a poor choice of words because programmed decision does not mean this has been put into a computer program. Okay? Shall I repeat that so when I ask you on this question on the exam, you'll remember it? Okay, programmed decisions are routine, repetitive decisions, often based upon a rule, a procedure, or some sort of quantitative method. It could be on a piece of paper. It could be something as simple as when the queue at the grocery store gets to 5, in other words, 5 people in line, you open another register. Okay, that's just a rule. All right, is it in a computer somewhere? No, it's just a rule. The manager looks over and looks at how long the queue is and all the registers. When any one of the registers gets a queue length of 5, he goes, another register to the front, please. And they open up another register. Okay, so that's a programmed decision. There's hardly any thinking to a programmed decision, right? I don't think about it. It's just a rule. So, hey, queue is 5, pop another one on. No thinking required. Okay, that's a programmed decision. All right. Non-programmed, as you can probably kind of sort of imagine, are those things where they're kind of usual and kind of, one-time decisions, difficult to quantify. I can't quite figure out exactly, it's one of those things where it's probably not written down. It's probably not routine. And these are things where you might have to go ask. It's like, wait a minute, we're getting behind here in the frozen food section. Can I borrow Bob from the fresh fruit section for half a day? That kind of stuff where it's not really a rule, but you go ask your boss, hey, can I do this? So, determine appropriate training program, you decide whether to develop a new product line, blah, 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 blah. So those are kind of things that kind of unusual, kind of exceptional, now let's talk about computers. How difficult would it be if you wanted to put into the computer a rule like if the queue length is 5, add another? That would be trivial to do from a computer perspective. But how many employees to staff in a particular area, if the workload goes up, that's a little tough. So program decisions are kind of easy to automate. And these non-programmed, they can be done, but they're not quite as clean cut as you can probably imagine. Okay, let's continue. The next thing to talk about is these things called decision structures, and they kind of group these things for a purpose, and later on it'll become a little bit more clear. So they talk about structured decisions. Structured decisions are typically those things where you have all of the information you need. Okay? I've got everything I need. I can just consider it like an Excel spreadsheet formula, okay, or something weird like that, where I have all the data and I just plug it in and poof, out pops the answer, and I go, good, I got my answer and I'm moving on. Unstructured are those things where I really can't get all the data, or perhaps I possibly could, but it would take like 6 weeks or $1 million to do. I mean, let's say, for example, you wanted to figure out what was, you're manufacturing cars, and you want to know what new color you should implement for the new model year. So you could hire an advertising firm to go out and do cold calls and surveys, and stand up in a mall with color chips and have people point. You could do all that, or you could say, what the heck, let's throw in blue. So these unstructured decisions is I don't have all the data, and it's likely that I will not ever have all the data that I need, or it's too expensive, or I could get it, but I need to make a decision now, not 6 weeks from now or 6 months from now. So it's where things are missing. Semi-structured is kind of a combination of the two, where you might say, well, look, I got 3/4 of the stuff I need, and this last part, let's just fudge it and move on. Okay, so that's what these 3 types are about. The table here is not really all that kind of helpful. They talk about, if you're doing, management control, structured, you might say, yeah, I know exactly, I got everything I need to develop my budget. Okay, good. Semi-structured means my budget, how good are you at predicting what your budget is going to be for next month, right? You can kind of sort of guess, right? But you don't have all the information. You don't know that you're going to get a flat tire, or little Bobby's going to have to go to the emergency room. You don't know any of that. And there's no way for you to know it. So how in the world could you come up with a perfect budget? You can't, right? Okay, that's what we're talking about. Unstructured, like sales and stuff, I have no way of predicting how many people are going to come in and buy my new car. I mean, I don't have a way. I can't do it. Okay, got it? Good. Let's move on. Now, think about the 3 things we just talked about, the structured, unstructured, and semi-structured. Now we're going to talk about these optimization models. Okay, so there's these kind of a high correlation. So the first kind of model we're going to talk about is what's called an optimizing model. Okay, so optimizing typically means that there really, really, really is only one correct answer. Okay? That's typically what it means. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're a delivery person for UPS or FedEx, or you're delivering milk if this was the 1960s. And you wanted to know the best route coming out of the warehouse to make your path to all the people that you needed to go to. More than likely, there's only one best path. Okay? More than likely. So an optimizing model would get you to the perfect answer. Okay, so that's what optimizing. Typically, optimizing is well defined. There's no questions involved. I mean, I know. Here's the route. Here's the list of customers I have to deliver, and they have to be done today. I mean, there's hardly anything else to think about other than do I drive here first or do I drive here first? Okay, there's hardly anything to talk about. If any of you guys ever took like my Excel course, the CISK450, we use this thing called the solver, and it's kind of one of those things where there's probably one best answer for the unit price or the quantity manufactured. So they go through this little routine. You give it the rules, and it spits out the one good answer. Okay, that's optimizing, and there's an awful lot of software out there that kind of do this for a minute. The next one's called the satisficing model. And, what the heck, we're getting pretty doggone close to the 15-minute mark. I'll go ahead and stop here while I got a good break, and we'll pick this thing up again in just a few.